Okay, let's unpack this. We've got this stack right here, notes, articles, all this research you've gathered, and it's all about one name, Lucifer,
Mhm.
which is, a name that carries some serious weight for most people.
Oh, absolutely. You hear Lucifer and, well, a very particular image tends to pop into your head, doesn't it?
Definitely.
But what's really interesting digging into the sources you've shared is just how much, I guess, richer and maybe more surprising the actual history of the name is.
Yeah, and that's kind of our mission for this deep dive, isn't it? To
Yeah,
get past that immediate reaction, look at this material and see what it tells us about the real origins, the meanings of Lucifer.
exactly.
Because as you dig in, you find it's not quite the straightforward story most of us assume.
Not at all. We'll trace where the name actually comes from, look at how these texts say it was first used,
Okay.
and then see how that clashes, really, with how it's commonly understood today. It's all right here in the stuff you've provided.
All right, so let's start right at the beginning. According to these sources, where does Lucifer actually originate?
They point straight to Latin. It's a compound word. From lux, which means light,
Light. Okay.
and fair, which means to bring or to bear.
So literally, light bringer.
Precisely. And the sources really stress this. In ancient Rome, Lucifer wasn't really a proper name like we think of it.
But a name. So what was it?
It was more descriptive.
Yeah.
Most often used for the planet Venus.
Venus, the actual planet.
Yeah, specifically Venus when you see in the morning sky, just before the sun comes up.
Ah, the morning star.
Exactly. That really bright star that kind of announces the dawn. It was the morning star, the bringer of light.
Okay, so its roots are in something, natural, kind of beautiful even, heralding the day. So fundamentally neutral, maybe even positive.
That's what these sources really emphasize.
Yeah.
Before it picked up all the later baggage, Lucifer was basically a neutral or positive descriptor.
Right. And looking through this material here, this is where it gets really fascinating. This whole morning star or light bringer idea, it shows up in some unexpected places, even in scripture, but like in a totally different way.
It really does. Your sources mention places like Revelation 22.16.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus actually refers to himself using similar imagery there.
Right.
Depending on the translation, like the Douay Rheims, he calls him the bright and morning star.
And the sources also note that in, significant religious tradition, the actual word Lucifer shows up referring to Christ.
Yes, exactly. The ancient Easter Vigil liturgy, the Exultet, that's a key example these texts cite.
Okay.
It actually refers to Christ as the Lucifer Matutinus,
Hmm.
the morning star. The Latin text even says, Ille inquam Lucifer qui nescit ocassum.
Which translates to,
That Lucifer, I say, who knows no setting, or who never sets.
wow.
Huh.
And the sources explain the context there, makes it crystal clear it's referring to Christ, right? The
Right.
sun, the bringer of eternal light, the dawn of the resurrection.
Absolutely. And what's so interesting there is how the term is used. In that liturgy, it's about Christ being the source and bringer of true, unending light. It takes that original meaning, light bringer, and uses it in this really profound, positive, theological way.
Okay, so if the word literally means light bringer, and it's used positively even for Christ in these specific texts, how on earth did it get so tangled up with Satan in popular thought?
Well, these sources connect that popular association mainly to how one particular passage got interpreted over time, Isaiah 14.1.
Oh, okay.
It's actually a poetic prophecy about the downfall of the king of Babylon.
That's the how you were fallen from heaven, O day star, son of dawn line, isn't it?
That's the one. And over time, through layers of commentary and metaphor, this description of the Babylonian king's fall from power,
Yeah.
it got applied to the idea of Satan as a fallen angel.
Right.
So that day star, or son of dawn, which some translations render as Lucifer or morning star,
Yeah.
it became a metaphor for this bright being who fell.
But the sources here, they make a really important distinction about that usage.
They really do. They stress that when Lucifer is used in the Exultet for Christ, it's about his actual nature as the true eternal light bringer.
Okay.
But when the Isaiah passage is interpreted and then metaphorically applied to Satan, it's not calling Satan a true light bringer. It's describing something that was maybe associated with light, like an angel, but then fell from that state.
So the popular link is mostly metaphorical, based on an interpretation of a prophecy about someone else entirely.
That's what these sources argue, yes.
Yeah.
It's distinct from the word's original meaning or its positive theological use for Christ.
Wow. So this deep dive into your sources, it really maps out an incredible journey for this name, Lucifer. Started as just a Latin term for Venus, the morning star, meaning light bringer.
Right. then used, according to these texts, even in ancient Christian tradition and scripture as a positive term for Christ, the true eternal light.
And then eventually, through interpretation and metaphor, it gets popularly and maybe mistakenly applied to Satan, kind of describing a fallen being, which mostly strips away that original meaning of actually bringing light.
Yeah, the key thing these sources highlight is that contrast. The original literal light bringer versus the later metaphorical idea used to describe a fall from light.
It just goes to show how language shifts, doesn't it? And how vital context is. Why going back to original sources, like we did here, can completely flip your understanding of something you thought you knew cold.
Absolutely.
It's a really powerful reminder, not to just accept the popular meaning of things without digging a bit deeper.
It really is.
So here's a thought to leave you with. If a name that originally meant Lightbringer, and was even used positively for Christ in some contexts, could end up becoming almost synonymous with ultimate darkness through layers of interpretation and metaphor. Well, what other words or concepts are out there, things we use every day that might have totally different origins or these hidden dual meanings just waiting to be found if you look back at their sources? Something to think about.